right, I don't know if that's recording now. Um, so welcome to the Rocky Mountain Outreach Interest Group. There we are now. It told me that we're recording. So welcome to the second Rocky Mountain Outreach Interest Group of 2021. And we're holding this virtually, but we hopefully will be able to meet in person soon. It's been a pretty wild week for some of us with these changing orders. To start off, I'm Jacob Brown. I'm organizing the Rocky Mountain Interest Group, and hopefully I'm doing a great job at it. I work for Jefferson County Public Library, and most of the time I drive the bookmobile under normal situations.
Yeah.
We're going to start off with introductions. So anyone who wants to go ahead and introduce themselves, go ahead and unmute and go ahead.
I'll jump in there.
Okay, I'll start calling on people if I have to.
I know. You have to go down the list, Jacob. My name is Susan Parkins, and I work at Laramie County Library in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I'm responsible for the bookmobile and outreach services, and which are two kind of separate things in our library. We don't do homebound with bookmobiles, but I do drive the bookmobile. We do have three other drivers. It used to be I was the only one that was trained to drive, and they realized that they needed to train some others. So, and of course, we are at limited services like most others. And I've been involved with Rocky Mountain Outreach Interest Group since it did, as Jacob and I go way back. As one of the founding members of the group, and you're doing a wonderful job, Jacob.
Thank you. Should I call on someone or? Okay, well, let's start off with Lisa Ward, who's one of our speakers today.
Hi, I'm the branch manager for mobile libraries at the Pikes Peak Library District in Colorado Springs. So we have 3 vehicles, and we have traditional mobile library service, and then we have a lobby stop van. And one of our staff members will be joining us. She's got an action-packed day with meetings and trainings and meet and greet, so she'll be popping in probably after lunch.
Thank you. And if Anna, sorry, could from DPL, Hana Zittel, if you could introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Hana Zittel, and I'm our Denver Public Library's Community Engagement and Outreach Coordinator.
All right, and then I'll just start calling everybody else. Go ahead, and Jason, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. I'm a colleague of Jacob's at Jefferson County, and I drive the bookmobile sometimes, and also our lobby sprinter van for our lobby stops. And I also run some virtual programming for individuals experiencing temporarily homeless through Lighthouse. And I also help to run like a mental fitness Fridays meditation call-in program on Fridays.
Thank you. Rosa?
Hi, my name is Rosa Granada. I work for High Plains Library District. I'm the Associate Director of Public Services, in particularly MOVE, which is our outreach department.
Thank you. Could Susan Adams introduce herself?
Hi, Rosa. We used to work together. I'm Susan Adams. I work in mobile library services at Arapahoe Libraries. I used to drive the bookmobile, but now I focus more on home delivery. I manage our home delivery program, and I also go to lobby stops. And right now we have 2 that have just opened up for the first time, so we're allowed to go back into them, and then the others are still curbside delivery.
Thank you. Glad to hear that places are starting to open up. Tammy Crossan?
Hi, I'm Tammy. I'm the director at the Hudson Public Library, which is a member library of the High Plains Library District. Hi, Rosa. And this is Allison. She is my outreach manager. We'll say manager. We're little, so titles are really non-existent around here. We all do everything. But we acquired a bookmobile. We call it WOW, so it's Words on Wheels. And we got it from the High Plains Library District a couple of years ago. And then about the time we got it up and running, we hit COVID. So we've been up and down with everything, trying to get it back on the road and everything. But we had a middle school that had shut down their library because of COVID and teachers and all of that. So we were providing services at the middle school for the whole year, and that's been awesome. And we do our stops just at different parks and stuff around the area. So still trying to keep it out and letting people know that it's out there and it's doing its thing. So that's what we're doing.
Thank you. Finally, I see Tina. Oh, yeah, I see Tina. Could you introduce yourself?
My name is Tina Miners. I'm with Montrose, Colorado. I'm the head of both youth and outreach services. We have a 32-foot bookmobile and a 19-foot Sprinter van, which I was just on this morning making deliveries, rushing back to try and make it in time for the meeting. The bookmobile has been shuttered for the last year and will probably be so until maybe later this fall, where we might be able to pick up some more stops. But the van keeps going strong, and hopefully we'll start to pick up some stops as well for the Sprinter van, which are lobby stops with mostly senior living facilities. But right now we're extremely understaffed. So that's what we're facing right now. Not that our vehicles have to be in the barn, but that we don't have enough people.
Thank you. So today, after introductions, which we just did, we'll chat about what's going on in our bookmobile and outreach world, some things to keep in mind, things coming up. As an aside, I may have mentioned this in our last meeting, but I'm helping out with the Cal Planning Committee. So we're planning the CalCon conference. So if you want to hear any sweet details about that, you can let me know. Presentations have already been selected and the schedule is like all set up, but we're still looking for people to want to do a quick lightning talk or lightning session, which is a 7-minute, just pitch your idea, stick to the idea, and inspire other people with it. I know ABO's conference is being planned, and I think that one is it still going to be virtual? Someone correct me on that. It's a great opportunity for any of us who are unable to take 3-4 days off, travel. So it's great that it's virtual this year and anyone can attend right from their office. So that's a great opportunity. So I hope people will look into that. Does anyone have any other things to share about what's brand new? Oh, okay. So we're gonna get started. After that, we're going to be talking about outreach, going to outreach events, or having big outreach programs, kind of the nuts and bolts if you want to plan going to a 4th of July event, or if you want to plan on going to parks and giving away books. I've invited everyone to speak on this, but specifically, Lisa Ward is going to speak about the nuts and bolts about what it's like taking vehicles to outreach events. And please speakers, just take this topic and run with it. It's your topic. So expand in any way you would like to. So I'll hand it over to Lisa. And I was trying to see if I could have a way for Lisa to share her screen if she wants to share her screen, but I'm not sure if I can do that.
She should be able to share her screen, Lisa, if you just go up to the very top where the leave button is. There's that little square with the arrow in it. If you
And
click on that, you should be
I
able to
didn't
share.
make anything real fancy to share,
Okay.
so sorry to
Oh,
disappoint.
thank you for that help, Rosa.
Thank you, though. So for the Pikes Peak Library District, we have the two vehicles that are the traditional bookmobiles, and then we have our lobby stop van. So what we found, with outreach is that, especially when I first started as the manager, I was really passionate about outreach. And so we had a kind of a culture shift where a lot of our staff who had been in the department a long time really kind of struggled with how we were going to keep our stops intact and provide the service to our patrons that we had served for all these years, and also open up, to do outreach. So how we were going to juggle all those things. And really the biggest concern was that our patrons are taxpayers too. So why are we wouldn't close a building and not have, we wouldn't have our building closed to do an outreach. So we had to really work through that and figure out how to make it work. And so one of our routes we go to weekly. And so it's easier to kind of take that route and put the outreach events on that route, because you imagine they have 3 other opportunities to visit the bookmobile in a month. And so on our city route, we go to those stops every other week. And so they still have one more opportunity, but it seemed to ease the staff's a lot to just look at it in that way. So how could we do both, honor our patrons and provide service, so provide outreach events. And a lot of times the outreach events that are in the evening, they're no problem. They don't interfere with our patron stops, but then you get into staffing, so it's always like a juggling act. So it's not a big deal. It all somehow works out. But those are some things that we really struggled through, but found a good balance. So some of the hardest parts for me have been saying no when I think the event would really be helpful. It would be helpful to the library district to kind of get our name out, or to be somewhere that we don't reach people, where we would reach people we normally don't. But that, is just something that we work through also, because I have finally got to the point where I can say no. I'm sorry, you need to give us, we need 3 weeks notice, or we need 5 weeks notice. We can't just save the day if you call me 2 days before the event, no matter how lovely it sounds. So that's kind of it, from a logistical standpoint, is kind of getting your needs in line and being able to say no if there's an event that doesn't align with your mission, but also doesn't align with what you can actually do, because I kind of always want to find a way. So that's been, something to work through. And then when you get further down the line, if I have to say no to something, I usually offer it to see if there's someone else in the district that's able to do that. And of course, that's easier when you have more staff in a bigger district. It's not going to be the case, in a small district. But So we can do that too. So sometimes our children's staff is able to fill in where we can't. And then once we get past the point where, this is a possibility for us, we have the staffing, then one thing I've noticed is people aren't trying to be mean or to be disrespectful or anything, but nobody understands what you mean when you say, I need a 40-foot safe parking spot where the doors open away from the parking lot, no matter how clear and how short I've got the spiel down to, there's just like no way someone can understand unless they've driven. Like if we came to any of your library events or any of your libraries, I know you would totally know what I'm saying. But unless you're a semi-driver in your other life, I think people have no idea. So like, for instance, one time we went to an event and they really wanted us to drive down this pathway, like weaving through trees, not like huge forest trees, but like ornamental trees. And the lady was like, she could not, even as our drivers tried, she would not believe them that this was not happening. And the firemen finally came over and were like, they can't do this. So, and sometimes people are like, oh, you can hop a curb. Look at your tires. There's no problem with that. So, so that's the other thing too, is kind of going out and looking at the parking spot, which all takes time, and there's not always much of that, and also like empowering the drivers to, when they get there, to be able to say, like, we cannot park there. That is not safe. We're not comfortable with that. And we've even had to get to the point only once where we left an event, and not like in a huff or anything, but just like, this is not going to work. And so, just like really empowering the drivers that they know better than the person who organized the event. So that's just some thoughts on parking. And another thing that kind of goes hand in hand with parking is some events we've gone to that are like, they'll have some indoor activities and then they'll have some outdoor activities, but often we don't get very many visitors to the bookmobile if it's an event that's indoor outdoor, because it's usually you're outdoor with the fire truck, and bookmobiles can't really compete with a fire truck if they're turning on the sirens, and so a lot of times what I found is if it's like, oh, we're going to have some vehicles in the parking lot and the rest is inside, it doesn't really turn out to be very helpful. And we've even tried to have a table inside and the staff like directing the people back out to the parking lot, but they just head to their cars, So, so it's just funny, the things you figure out that work and don't work. So I think that, so the biggest part for me is just scheduling and parking and staffing. So I don't know if that's helpful. That was kind of a ramble, but.
No, thank you so much. I've thought of like the problems of like parking, but I never thought about making sure there's actually a way to get to the parking place where they want you to be. I can understand that could be a real headache if they have a lot of vehicles going in and out, and making sure you get there early enough or at the right time.
Mm-hmm. And not getting trapped. Like sometimes we've needed to leave early, and they really think that you'll be able to leave early, but it usually doesn't really work out that well. So it's better just to plan to be there for whatever time they say the event is. And if you can't, probably for us, it's worked out better not to try and leave early.
Especially if everyone else is if all the attendees are leaving early too.
Yes.
What kind of events? Can you give us a sample of what kind of events?
Sure. So, of course, because of COVID, we really haven't done anything, except for last week, there was a National Kids Day in the parks. And so we went to Cheyenne Mountain State Park, and they ended up having to morph their program because of the flexing regulations. So it wasn't the event that they were expecting to have, but we still were there, and we had an activity inside and some kits to give out outside. But in the past, we've gone to parades, we've gone to sporting events because we have the semi-pro baseball and soccer in Colorado Springs. So we've gone to those events. Let's see what else. Sometimes we go to the county fair, but that's been quite a while since we've been there. And we do like school events, literacy nights and back to school nights. And then kind of anything else in between. During COVID, our lobby stop van went to a few assisted living facilities, and they had parades, car parades for the residents when things were a little more open, like in last summer. And so the patrons were out front, and we just were part of the parade that drove by. So we kind of, you name it, we might have done it. We just haven't driven to the top of Pikes Peak yet.
Not yet. Well, thank you so much for your insight. Does anyone have any questions they want to ask Lisa right away? You can use the chat window, or you can just unmute yourself.
Lisa, are you, this is Susan from Laramie County Library. Are you allowing people on your vehicle right now? I may have missed that if you said that.
Oh, I don't think I said that. We are, we have been since, I think about October or November last year, but we just had really strict regulations. So they had to wear masks, which was like there was no fudge room in that at that time. And we just were allowed to have 2 patrons on at a time. And then if a larger family came on, we had to have one of our staff members step off the vehicle. So, and we did a lot of, when the regulations were tighter, we served outside the bookmobile. So we still took it, but we had tables outside for returns and discharges, and we just didn't have any browsing. So now, as of this week, or I guess the end of last week, we were just let it fly. We can have the no mask, the capacity is back to normal, and so here we are.
Wow.
But we're still, with our lobby stop service, we're still kind of in the same boat someone else mentioned, where some stops we're doing the curbside delivery, some we have outside browsing, and one this week just had us come inside. So.
Lisa, do you keep any stats when you go to your events?
We do. We keep everything we keep on a normal stop. So we keep the hours, the number of patrons that come inside, the checkouts, holds, library cards, reference questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, that sounds pretty extensive.
We're clicking for everything, really.
Yeah. Do you have any open feedback loops or anything like that your patrons do? Like surveys or anything of that nature?
Our communications department just did a big community survey, that we actually paid like a consulting firm to help with, but it wasn't mobile library specific. It was based on the needs of the community. And then we just did another one for ours, but we haven't done a mobile library specific one in a long time.
Thank you.
Susan Adams wrote that she loves the fact that you participated in the assisted living facility parades. And I was curious on what did that entail and how difficult was the scheduling for that?
So it was actually very easy. The activity directors at the facilities were the ones who organized the parade. And really, it was for family and friends. And then we just asked if we could come. You know, we found out, I don't even know how, I think just in talking with the activity directors. So at that point, our stops were so shortened that the staff really, especially for the lobby stops, you know, going from like an hour and a half where we were doing library service and a program, a trivia program, to just curbside delivery. We had quite a bit of time at that point. And so that wasn't any trouble for scheduling. And we really just had to have enough gas and show up. So we did, one of our staff members who's in the meeting with us today, January, she made us some really nice signs to put on the side of the vehicle. And they just said, like, we love you and we miss you. And, you know, they were really nice looking, and we put some balloons on the vehicle. But it was really not a very big time commitment either. They were about, I guess, maybe an hour, but probably more like 45 minutes. So it was easy.
Thank you. If no one has any other questions at the moment, we will pass it on to, let's see, I'm gonna do that and pass it on to Hana Zittel from Denver Public Library. Thank you so much for agreeing to speak about your experience at events. And I'm really curious about the bicycle that we've all heard about. But if you want to expand upon that and go in any direction you like, you go right ahead.
Sure. Yeah, I just took your suggestion and ran with it. I'm going to try to share my screen. I'm opening a share tray, and now I'm going to try. Screen one. Okay, you all have to let me know if it's working though. Yes, no, maybe?
I do see. There we go.
Okay. Okay, it sounds like I'm sharing. So I did, when Jacob asked us to talk about Denver Public Library's mobile services. So I was just going to talk a little bit about our structure. I know many of you are already familiar with it, but I'll talk a little bit about that. And then I'll just talk about some of the changes we've made as a system as it goes for mobile services during this time. So our mobile services department lives in our community engagement and communications department. And then I am the outreach and community engagement coordinator. And I have 4 library program associates that report to me. And then when COVID happened, because we were expanding our reach so much, I had 2 librarians that were redeployed to me. So that's kind of our team. And then we rely on a lot of connections with our branches around the city to kind of get that done. So to talk about our book bike, this was the original iteration of our book bike. It's called DPL Connect. It was definitely a prototype and had a lot of, it was dangerous to be frank. And so, but we found it was, you know, it was a really successful outreach tool. I think it's a big attention getter. So we moved on to develop Wheelie. So Wheelie is the same design as the one at San Francisco Public Library. It is much safer, easier to use. It's still heavy to get around, but we haven't really used it during COVID, but we're starting to use it now. So its first journey will actually, in probably about a year, will be next week. So that's Wheelie, our book bike. And then, you know, just talking about those larger events, you know, we've taken, Wheelie's been in, there's a South Broadway Halloween parade. That's Wheelie getting ready to be Miss Pac-Man, and a unicorn for Pride Parade. And, you know, we've gone to Comic-Con for years now. I know the name has changed and they haven't done it, but we also try to go to music festivals that are in our area. And I think the key for us for larger events in the before times was really around events that supported our collection and worked with our collection. So looking at music events, looking at film festivals, and then really community-based events that are important to our neighborhoods. And we really lean on our branch locations to let us know where those are. So again, there's some more costumery with Wheelie. And then we also have Scoot, who is Scoot has it's had a lot of different forms, but we now have it covered in fur. And it's a slightly smaller vehicle that we use. That's an attention getter. And we've kind of repurposed it to make it always carrying comic books and free comics. So that's kind of been its role as we've gone out. But we have, in addition to those two vehicles, we have 2 Sprinter vans and then a larger bookmobile that folks can come on. We got those from Summit Body Works, and we were in the process of launching them when COVID hit. So it was like while we were planning a release party that COVID hit. So one of our Sprinter vans was dedicated to lobby stops at older adult sites. One was kind of just a special event outreach vehicle. And then our larger vehicle would go to schools and classrooms, would come on, you know, getting the chance to check out books. So those were deployed all over the city, usually every day, about 3 to 4 stops a day. And obviously that all stopped pretty quickly. But I would say April of last year, we were starting to hear from our schools in our area that they were having trouble, the families were having trouble accessing books. So this was our first time going out during the pandemic. We didn't know anything about anything. So we used, instead of circulating materials, we partnered with our Friends Foundation to get donated books so that we were trying to avoid the, you know, quarantine or figuring out materials handling. So just giving things away. In the beginning, we bagged books and gave them away. And so we repurposed all of our Sprinter vans and our bookmobile into really just like book delivery service at communities. So this one is going to, in that early day, like our free grab and go lunch sites at our Denver public schools. So they're providing free lunch, and kind of our premise was we didn't want to have folks having to go somewhere extra. We wanted to meet them where we're already going, which was accessing those free meals. So that ended up being really successful, got a lot of enthusiasm. And then we started to go to 3 lunch sites a day with those vehicles. This is a map of all the free lunch sites in the city of Denver during the early pandemic. So these are all at schools. And just trying to get absolutely everywhere in the city that we could, utilizing those free lunch sites. that lent itself to exploring even more sites around the city that food distribution, working with mutual aid organizations to understand where they were meeting their families. We started working with temporary shelters. So some of our hotels in the area were turned into temporary shelters. We started doing book distribution there. This is a very rudimentary beginning process where we laid out all the books on the ground and folks could walk by and like select what they needed based on age group. We have really altered that process going forward, but this is kind of that early setup. This is some of our colleagues at Jewish Family Services, which is a food bank. And we were finding a lot of need here for languages other than English, which encouraged us to start buying with some donated money, materials in Russian, Arabic, Vietnamese, and expanding that giveaway collection instead of just relying on donations from our Friends Foundation. So we're still really relying, they were at this time really relying on book giveaways rather than circulation. We started getting better donations, newer stuff. So that was really great to start being able to hand our community brand new, beautiful books rather than used books. Just starting to get that attention and publicity about what we were doing around the city led to some monetary donations for us to buy. And this is kind of how we, as Denver kept rolling out services, so I think folks are familiar, we set up a lot of tech access sites around the city where folks could come use a computer either outside our branch locations or we set them up at the safe outdoor sites that are set up, additionally at those hotel sites and things like rec centers around the city where we're hearing a need for computer use. We've since been able to purchase a lot of Chromebooks and hotspots that are for checkout that we're able to distribute around the city. And then we just received a grant for free cell phones. So we'll be giving away cell phones and there's no strings attached. It's just giving away a cell phone to folks who need cell access. So that's been a new rollout that we're doing in the last couple months. So these are again, some colleagues we started, at those encampments around the city too. We were bringing water, we were bringing books, but that wasn't the need. We were bringing snacks, we were bringing supplies. That was the need that we were really seeing, not necessarily books. So we adapted that to try to funnel some of our money towards purchasing supplies for just survival supplies for our neighbors. And then I guess now we've moved. This is an early setup of us returning to our older adult facilities. We do everything outside. We're still doing everything outside. Our sites still look very much like this. And we're just returning to outdoor service in that way. And I'm going to share, I hope you can still see my screen. This is kind of I would say that COVID changed everything we did in a way that I think is really positive in being able to say no to farmers markets and festivals and just refocusing all of our energy on identifying sites and neighborhoods around our cities that need library access or are really distant from library access in the city. So this is, you can still see my screen. This is all of our stop locations, but they are overlaid with the Denver Neighborhood Equity Index scores. So just really focusing on those lower equity index scores and working to identify sites in those areas. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now. Did it stop?
Yes.
Okay, and that is all.
Thank you. So it sounds like you've taken all the organization and skill that you were putting in outreach events and have redirected to high need locations, but a lot of the process could be about the same, where you were taking a vehicle and you're bringing what is most needed to those areas in your community?
Yeah, and I think an important thing we're trying to work through is when the library is not needed. I think that's an important consideration as well, and understanding the limits of what we truly can offer. Books are nice, and computer and internet access is essential, but there might be another community organization that's providing it better than we can to their neighbors, or there is a need that is not those things and it's food and we don't need to be in the way. So yeah, just taking those into consideration as well of listening to the community and hearing from them what's needed and being able to respond to that in a different way.
We had a question from Susan Parkins in the chat earlier in regards to different outreach events that you were taking Willie and Scoot to. Did you just invite yourself to those events? Did you wait to be invited? Did you do a bunch of cold calling? How did you get into the Comic-Cons and the other various events you've done?
So like the big, yeah. So I think a lot of those were, with programming, were kind of ingrained in the pop culture art scene already. And I do think we get invited to a lot of things. I think early on we were cold asking, like I would see a cool music festival and cold ask them. But now I think it's in the inverse where we're starting to be invited to more things. And changing how we do things has really helped to say no. I think before we definitely, for example, went to any older adult facility that asked, and now we prioritize our Denver Housing Authority, older adult facilities, and anyone that offers affordable housing or low income housing. And it's much easier to just say, no, we can't come here because you don't offer an affordable housing option for your residents.
Does anyone else have other questions? Chat is just really excited with everything you're saying. So
I don't have a question so much as just a comment, in that those are some of the same struggles we've been dealing with for years here, Hannah. And when we reorged in 2017, it really kind of blew up for our organization. And the idea, in outreach in particular, and this is something I push not only this discussion, not only here, but also with ABOS, is that idea that we don't really have best practices. We don't really have a definition of what outreach is or how outreach should be done. Nothing formalized. So it's really hard for libraries to struggle. In particular, that allows administrators to kind of do what they want, because we just don't have any reference to, what best practices are or how to do outreach correctly. And we've worked really hard here at HPLD to define what outreach is and how to do it. And part of our definition is this idea that there are two types of outreach patrons. There are outreach patrons that know what libraries are familiar with libraries, and simply outreach is for non-users. So there's two non-users. It's those people who know libraries, understand libraries, have access to libraries, and choose not to use them, in which case you promote to them, right? You attend community events for them to remind them that the library is here. But then there's the other larger segment of non-users, which are people who just don't have access, people who don't trust libraries, people who don't understand libraries. And that's what true outreach is, right? Outreach encompasses it all, but there's these two different groups. And so what we've done is we've created priority populations for outreach. And we have this definition. We have our patrons, our two types of patrons. And the patron that we prioritize, if there's a question of where services need to go, if we have events, requests for events at the same time, or events that will pull staff from one services to other services, we prioritize those that service our priority populations. And for us, our priority populations are those that what we would consider the patrons for true outreach, those patrons that don't have access and don't understand. So we assess those every 3 years. Right now, our patrons are our rural communities, our homeless communities, our traditionally underserved, our elderly, and our newcomers. and every 3 years we assess who those patrons are and where those priorities go. But I think it's such a huge conversation that we need to have across the board for outreach librarianship to allow us to better use our monies, right? Because all those patrons are important, but that issue of equity is also something that we need to constantly be keeping in mind.
Yeah.
That sounds like a great panel for ABOS and get everyone talking about best practices for events.
Yeah, it's been I think a model that we're in particular using at the safe outdoor sites and the temporary hotel shelter locations is that a lot of the folks that were meeting there were central customers. Our central library is still closed and or have been banned from the library. So providing library access in a different way and how to re-bring them to the library or start fresh. Those have been things that we're working on at those particular sites. And I think we're going to have our head of security does meetings with folks to reinstate them and they can come back to the library. So we're going to work on inviting him to those sites to meet with folks, to meet them where they are so that they can come back to our library locations as well.
I have a question for Hana, and this is taking in a kind of different path. You mentioned that you were planning a release party for your brand new bookmobile when COVID hit, and we're actually going to be getting a brand new bookmobile soon as well. So I would love to hear what you're planning for your release for a new bookmobile. And if you can add, this might be relevant for everyone who's reopening after COVID, because you're introducing maybe for the first time your services to people, or at least for the first time for over a year. So I would love to hear a bit about your release party planning, if you were able to share that.
Yeah, we didn't have to plan it. So I didn't have to do anything.
Oh.
I think we would have, it's really would have been a community-based. I think we had plans. We're working a lot in our Sun Valley neighborhood. So that I think would be ideal. We work with a lot of mutual aid organizations over there. But yeah, it was, I got out of planning a party, really, is what I want to.
That's too bad. That's really sad, though.
I think here's how I look at it, is we got to introduce our bookmobiles in a totally different way to folks that may have never interacted with them before. And they've now become like a different kind of symbol in our city. So I think all in all, it ended okay.
We have 5 minutes before our break, although we can take longer if we want to. Does anyone else want to ask questions from our speakers or share their experience with events? Oh, and thank you for the picture, Lisa.
I will add our first big event. So we're doing our first big one will be a park in Denver. Name has been changed from Columbus Park to La Raza Park. And I think it's going to be a huge celebration. So that will be our first like big outdoor event of the summer. And that's going to happen on June 20th.
I know at our library, it's really sad that we have to keep turning things down. And we have a big Super Day event, which is a citywide gathering, and we were invited. And there's a lot of other nonprofit organizations that have chosen to not go. And I think we're going to turn them down too, because right now they're still not allowing anybody on the bookmobile at all. So it's kind of like, you can be a presence there, but what are we going to do? I don't know. There's different things we could do, but it's easier for our library administration just to say no right now and wait till next year. We're going to participate in parades, but you can do that safely and securely. And so we're going to do 3 parades this summer, but no events, at least not till the fall. Hopefully we'll start then.
Just one more comment. I'm really happy to see Denver's Bookmobile Facebook page. I do follow that to get an idea of what things you do. It's fantastic, and I'm envious.
I dread making those posts every week, but I'm glad that someone is looking at them.
I do follow it. It's fantastic.
Does everybody have a Facebook page?
We have a library Facebook page, but not a specific bookmobile one.
Same here at Jefferson County. We have a library Facebook and Instagram page, but getting stuff for our mobile library on that is always a challenge. I'm envious of having our own. That'd be fantastic.
We have our own Facebook page and Instagram page too. All of our branches do here. Every single branch has their own social media pages, which is really nice. And we all wanted that, but now that we have it, it's hard to, just like Hannah, no one really wants to post because, you know, it's work.
It's time consuming.
It is.
All right, we're going to take about 15 minutes. Step up, stretch your legs. There's no other questions. Oh, thank you for sharing that in the chat. So go like those pages, and it's a great place to get ideas and think about the future of outreach. So stretch your legs. We'll be back in 15 minutes. We'll be talking about our different summer reading plans. Hopefully they'll be more exciting than last year's summer reading plans. So we'll see everyone back at about 12:15. I'll keep it running, but I'll turn off cameras and mute everybody. And I'll also stop the recording. Okay, it is 12:15 and we can get started as soon as people are back. So you can just enter in chat that you're ready to get started or turn on your camera. So I know you're back. So for this last section, we're going to be sharing our summer reading plans or summer challenge plans or any programming that you're doing during the summer to help combat the summer slide and keep people reading and keep up those literary skills going. Does anyone want to start? We're going to do this in a roundtable fashion, so you can just unmute yourself, talk about what you're doing, ask questions, answer questions, and we'll try and hear from everybody.
I don't mind starting.
Thank you, Rosa.
So we hadn't planned on doing any indoor programming because, you know, summer planning started months and months ago. So even though now we're opening up our buildings more, we're going to go ahead and stick with the plans that we laid out for summer reading to be outdoor and to be make and take and virtual mostly. We are still in outreach. We've always, like, even in May of last year, we were still doing programming, outdoor programming, and attending events. So we've never really stopped doing that. And we're just going to continue doing those same things. You know, so all of our programming is outside. And otherwise, it's very much the same thing we've always done. We've just moved it to be, you know, outside, socially distanced, things like that. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same thing.
What kind of programs are you doing?
Oh, I can't even think of them all. We what we do in outreach is we typically do 8 programs to cover the entire 12 programs, 8 programs to cover the summer. Because what we do is, you know, our scheduling is on a 2-week kind of rotation. So like I saw something like one of the ones I remember seeing is a teacup fairy garden, and so they created these make and take bags for teacup fairy gardens. I saw I can't remember what they're called, but they're clay balls with seeds inside, and you throw them out into your garden, and then the clay kind of erodes
Cool.
in the gardens, and just a bunch of really cool stuff. I can't even really remember. If you remember, I don't do a lot of programming anymore. I just get to see the emails come across my inbox.
Yeah.
But our big thing is just everything is outside instead of inside right now, and we're still sticking with the make and takes and all of that through the end. We're not really planning on, even though we're slowly opening up our buildings, you know, I don't, I'm sure Hannah understands, like with the larger systems, all of our, we have our separate community relations department, and they do all the advertising and stuff like that, and we have to have stuff into them like 8 weeks in advance. So nothing is going to be publicized as being open until August, because that's where our window is for programming and publicity right now. So everything else is going to stay the way it was because all that has already been planned and advertised and everything is being outdoors. So
Thank you.
yep.
Thank you so much for going first as well. I will go ahead and go second for Jefferson County unless Jason wants to talk about our summer reading plan. Okay. So we have taken makes. Oh, okay. I don't know if this is gonna work. There we go. So you mentioned make and takes. Is that where someone makes something and then takes it home? What we call it is take and make. Someone takes it and then makes it at home. Okay. So we'll be passing these out quite frequently to our all ages stops for the bookmobile. That's one plan that's been in the works for months and months and months. We're gonna see if like anything else changes, but again, like you're saying, we had to make all these plans 6 months ago to determine what we're doing. So that's one thing we're going to do to help kids stay engaged is we're going to be passing these out at our couple of our bookmobile stops. For our assisted living stops, we're actually working with activity directors. And is this going to show up as well? Our activity directors are going to be able to sign up their residents, and then all the residents will be able to participate in our summer reading challenge. And we'll get those minutes logged and or books read logged and be able to give out prizes to them. So that's the other thing we're doing. But it's been kind of a challenge planning our summer reading and imagining what it's going to look like this year. We're hopeful we'll be able to do some exciting things maybe at the end of the summer. So it looks like we've had some people who had to leave. So we have a lot less people to share about their summer readings.
Hey, Jacob. Is there a way for the screen to show up differently? Because I've tried all of these different options on gallery, large gallery, together mode, and I still have, since Lisa, your face is wonderful, but you're listed as a main presenter, so she gets like half of my screen, and then the other half is the everybody else plus Lisa again. And is there any way to like make it so if you take that little because she shows a person with a star under it, not that it's a big deal, but like when you were sharing stuff, I can't get you to come up and you're just this little itty bitty person back there in all those little seats, and I couldn't see your things that you were showing.
I've tried to fix that, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on there.
It could just be me. Well, see, and Lisa, I don't want you to turn off your video because then we can't see your face, and you don't show up at all. So anyway, it's not a big deal. I just know that everybody else are these little tiny pictures. So that's okay. That's all right.
Just wondered how that would change things.
Is it still Lisa taking up most of your screen, Susan, and everyone else is crammed in the corner? Or
I'm going to share my screen.
Sorry, we're using a new tool.
Is it sharing? I've never used. So this is how it looks with half of my screen is the main speaker, And then the other half is anybody else who has their videos on.
Okay.
And I can change it to like this together mode where we're seated in this wonderful little gallery, but Lisa still is the primary person. So, but it's really not a big deal. That's okay.
Did you pin Lisa maybe? Did that?
I didn't do like me.
Yeah.
I
Is there
didn't
that might be more of a
thing.
thing actually.
I think it might be on your end. You
Okay.
could always try like leaving and coming back. That might
Okay.
be
Maybe
set up.
I'll like hanging up and then rejoining
Yeah.
the meeting. Okay. I'll do that. I'll be right back.
While we wait for that, so I think we actually only have 4 libraries here right now. And we've already heard from 2 of us about summer reading. So at this rate, we're going to be done this meeting in 5 minutes, and that'll be the end. Does anyone else? Oh, there we go.
All right. I just see Wendy.
For a while.
Well, now I only see 2 people because only 2 people have their cameras on besides myself.
January and I can share for PPLD if you
Yeah.
want. So I can just quickly tell you from the bookmobile side of things, our stops are more focused on kids during the summer. Whatever school stops fall off, then we have the option to put in additional stops for the summer. So we're going to be going to some community centers and parks. At the county schools, we continue to go there because they kind of serve as the meeting place for the smaller rural communities. And then we try and target mobile home parks and neighborhoods that have families. And then the summer enrichment programs, those are a little tricky to schedule in the summer because they just take about 3 weeks. And so then you have another hole in your schedule, but we're still going to do that. And one of the schools reading interventionists contacted us and wanted us to come for a stop. And so she's coming to the stop every Saturday and bringing popsicles
That's ridiculous.
for her kids. So we're going to be able to, I guess the popsicles are the draw because she's their teacher and hoping that will help them come get some books and keep reading for the summer. Then we are going to go to Air Force Space Housing Complex State Park. The Garden of the Gods Visitor Center has a reading story time, and so we're going to piggyback on that. So their staff will provide the story time, and we're just going to show up towards the end and hope the families will stick around and check out some materials. And then one of our most successful summer stops is at a coffee shop where the owner really has a heart for the community and for kids. So he actually came up with this idea, and it started out with a story time and then music so that parents that are kind of not stuck, but have their kids all day long and maybe they can't go to music at night or they can't go out on a date or whatever. Maybe they could come to this coffee shop in the daytime to listen to live music and the kids could have a story time. So the music didn't go as well as it sounded like it might. So it's just a story time now. And so we'll be at that stop and we provide the story time and then they do all the advertising for the stop.
Thank you for volunteering to share what WOW is doing. Tammy, go ahead.
Okay, I don't know if can you hear us okay?
Yes.
Okay, because our internet is in and out, so we're kind of catching you guys in fits and starts. So I just wanted to make sure you could hear us. I'm actually going to turn it. I'm going to turn it over to Allison because she's the one that her and another employee, Rick, are the ones that are heading up WOW for the summer. And I'll let you know what they're doing for programming and summer reading.
So for summer reading, we're following the district and we're going to do a bunch of take and makes for the libraries. But for the bookmobile, we decided to do some fun stuff at our park stops. For June, all of our park stops, we are doing a field day and we're going to take outdoor games and sidewalk chalk and let the kids just have a blast. For July, we're doing a story time and then we're going to take our take and make crafts on the bookmobile to all the parks that we're going to. And then for August, we're again going to do a story time and we're going to do a messy STEM activity outside on the bookmobile at all the park stops. So we're just going to let the kids have a blast this year outside and get them running around. And so that's what we came up with for summer reading on the bookmobile.
And then we're also going to, when we do our fair out here, there's a parade. And so the bookmobile for the past 3 years has been part of the parade. So we decorate up the bookmobile and then usually the staff follows along doing something fun that's silly for librarians, and we throw out candy and stuff. And then one of the other things that we plan on doing is we have a 3rd of July event here. And so we're going to have WOW be out at that event and be able to give people an opportunity to see what it is and hand out some information and stuff as well. So that's kind of our plans for the summer.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Do you have a sound system with your vehicle and a bubble maker? And
no, but those are all great ideas.
Yeah. I'm writing it down.
One thing that we have come is our vehicle is just a big white panel truck, and we have Hudson Public Library on the side of it, and then across the top in really big letters it says WOW. And one thing that we have found is that most places we go, they think that we're a food truck or something. And one of the things that we need to work on is getting maybe a new graphic put on the side of our vehicle so people know what it actually is, and not that we're just a moving van or whatever. So that's something we need to work on. And so we've been, as they go to the stops, they've been putting tables out front, and we have a big welcome sign and that kind of stuff to try to let people know that we're there and what we are. But just we've got some things as we've been working through this. We go, okay, well, we've got to do this to make it better, and we've got to do that to make it better. So and hearing all the ideas on here has been very, very helpful for us to say, well, we could take it one step further by doing a little bit more.
thank you. Does anyone else want to share their summer reading plans?
Hi, I'm January, and I'm with Lisa from the bookmobile here in the Springs. And so we're going to also have, from our Family and Children's Services Department, we're going to have they're creating these large outdoor labyrinths that are portable on like giant tarps. And so we're going to have those as an outdoor activity that the kids can do at the stops. And then that's for June. And then in July, we're going to have some sandwich board style we've been doing story walks, but the one they're coming up with is a math related one. So trying to just keep them learning over the summer, and then just promoting our summer reading program with the prizes, and just with talking to the kids and their families when they come on, and just doing our best to help them pick books and continue to work hard over the summer with their reading and just keep it involved with them. So
Thank you for adding that. You mentioned a large labyrinth on the tarp. Is it like printed on the tarp? Then people have their heads down, then they follow through the labyrinth?
I don't think it's going to be printed. I believe they're doing it using, I don't know if it's tape for sure, but our Family and Children's Services department is creating it on the tarp. So they're going to create the labyrinth, and then the kids can, go walking through it. And we're going to have, because we also will have take and makes that our Family and Children's Services department is working on, but we're going to create little bags for when they complete the labyrinth with like a bookmark, coloring sheets, stickers, and such as that. So just as a little, here you go, you finished the cool little activity, and here's some reading material. And so
That's fantastic.
thank you.
It's giving me some great ideas. I just want to throw out this question. It does look like a lot of people have to leave early, so I'm glad we're wrapping up so early. Is everyone using some kind of software to track minutes, or using paper trackers? I just wanted to throw out that kind of survey question to everyone who's still here.
Jacob, we're using Beanstack again this summer. We started it last year, and I know it's really grown in popularity among other libraries. But we're pretty excited about it. And our summer reading kicks off today. I was going to show this to you because I think it's pretty cool. Is anybody else using the consortium theme? That this is Believe the Impossible. This is our logo.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you can see that. Whoops.
That's so cute.
And so these are our shirts, and mine just came out of the dryer, and I'm going to work here when we're done with this meeting. So I'm really excited that about our theme and our logo and stuff. But on the bookmobile, ours will still be very passive. But I am trying to come up with ideas for outdoor programming, just to even get people to come to the bookmobile, even though we can't have them come on right now. And so I was hoping, I asked Tammy to maybe share. She said something about a messy STEM program. That sounds really interesting. I think, Lisa, I'm trying to keep track of what everybody was talking about, but maybe Jacob, you could ask even those who weren't here today to just share their ideas to the listserv, and so we can copy them.
I will definitely encourage everyone to share their great ideas. I'm stealing that labyrinth idea if I can.
Oh, yeah.
We can make that happen. Get a bubble maker. They're really exciting and fun. We did that a couple of years ago, and it was a big hit.
In yard games, I can't, sorry, January, but I swear, I can't believe how yard games are like. We have the giant Jenga and the cornhole, and I don't know, we have a few, and they're just like fail safe. If something didn't work out, they're good to have on hand.
And that's what we did with, we had some grant money last year, and knowing that we weren't going to buy any books or anything with COVID and everything, since nobody was going to come in, we didn't need it, anything in our collection. And so we used our grant money, and we purchased a whole bunch of outdoor games for checkout. So we got, the Giant Connect 4, we got American Ninja Warrior, what are they called? Obstacle courses, sorry, and Jenga and all of those things. And so we got a whole bunch of Slammo that they could check out because they, everybody was staying at home, and we still felt like families and kids needed to get outside and have something fun to do. So we purchased a whole bunch of those for circulation in our library.
So were they always checked out? Since you said it was for circulation?
During especially during the summer last year, and they kind of sat for the winter, obviously, because they were outdoor games. But now it's starting to pick up again, and people grabbing those up to be able to do it. It's funny because like last year they went out a lot for graduation parties and that kind of thing. So it was just something fun for families to be able to provide without having to go spend the money on something for a one-time event. So it has been very successful, very successful.
I'm gonna suggest that we get some outdoor games that people can check out.
I wrote that down too. Great.
So I think we're ready to wrap up this meeting of the Rocky Mountain Outreach Interest Group. Before we head out, I'd like to let you guys know, please give me ideas for the next meeting, what you're interested in learning, what would you like to hear from other people who are working in similar departments, because I'm running out of ideas. Hopefully our next meeting will be in person, although that might be January or it might be in September. It's possible that we'll be able to just all get together for CalCon. So I'll post that on the listserv, asking people who's planning on attending and seeing if we just want to get a table somewhere and chat during CalCon.
That won't include me though.
So yeah, I'll see if there's interest in meeting in person during CalCon or having a separate meeting in September that's in person. Or if that doesn't work, we'll try for January. I'll also see if I can find out who's willing to host and show us their brand new vehicles and brand new departments. I think it's been a while since Denver's hosted, so I may ask them.
Oh, I just have one thing to share, and hopefully next time we meet, our bookmobile made it onto the special purpose tax ballot.
Ooh.
So the election, I believe, is in August. Cross your fingers, send me positive vibes. I don't care whatever you want to do, because we figure it's going to be like by the time the taxes passed and then the money's raised and the RFP, we've all been through that. We're looking at 5 years, and by then our bookmobile will be 20 years old. So I'm just really, really excited that our commissioners were proactive and approached us to get that on the ballot. So,
oh, wow.
So hopefully next time we meet, I will be doing a happy dance and telling you guys that it passed.
Thank you for sharing that. If no one has anything else to share, we will say goodbye, and I will post the recording and what notes I have, as well as parts of this chat, or even the whole chat if I can manage it, to the listserv. And I will invite everyone on the listserv to please share their summer plans so that we can take all their good ideas and share it amongst ourselves. And I will work on our next meeting. I was thinking October, but I realized that's ABO. So it'll probably either be September, and if it doesn't happen then, it will have to wait until January, because I know how hard it is to meet in November or December.
Thank you, Jacob. Thanks for keeping us organized. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
So much for coming. Thank you so much for Lisa Ward for sharing her experience. And I know Hana needed to leave, but thank you, Hana. If you see this recording, thank you so much for sharing your experience with event planning. Goodbye,
Bye, everybody.